double pendulum is a great example of a chaotic system. Let's write a double pendulum simulation and observe the chaos that arises from it. So how was your week, man?
Not so great, but yeah.
Kept your head above the water?
Just a...
Yeah, it's a new idiom I learned from one of my friends.
Okay, keeping the head above water.
Keeping the head above water. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same story here.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Perhaps the world is gearing up to run full speed in 2022. You know, I mean, everybody was expecting that 2021 would be the full speed thing, but that didn't happen.
Yeah.
In 2022, it'll run. I think we'll run full speed.
Yeah, I saw a prediction where around April, all this pandemic thing will die down, and then post April will be the real.
Will be the real
full speed thing.
Oh, okay.
But it keeps going ahead. So what have we planned today?
So today I thought we've done so many chaotic systems in the past, right? I mean, I think episode 21 we did the Lorentz attractor, where we had a sort of a physics simulation where even the smallest change in the initial conditions would give rise to or would result in completely different outcome at the very end.
Very true.
In episode 27, we did the chaos game where, just chaotic equations give rise to patterns and all of those things, right? Yeah. In a similar vein, I wanted to do the double pendulum experiment or the double pendulum simulation today, right? Simulating the double pendulum itself is a great task. I mean, that itself introduces to a whole new variety of physics. Simulating double pendulum itself is a big deal.
Okay, so
but I think the point
from what is a double. I just know a pendulum.
Yeah,
what is double?
Yeah. I mean, it's just one bar. I mean, you know what a pendulum is,
right?
And then if you have two pendulums attached.
One pendulum and then another one attached to the weight of the first one.
Then you would have like a double pendulum system.
Got it.
All right. I mean, I have a presentation and everything. I'll show you. Maybe I should just switch over right now.
Let's start with that.
So we've done a simple pendulum in the past. All right. And a simple pendulum, it's just that. I mean, there is a rod and there is a bob at the very end of it. It's called a bob. I think the technical term is bob. And it has a certain mass.
Correct.
All right. So it has a certain length and it has a mass. We've done this before. We've done this, and I think in episode 16 we've done the simple pendulum. I'll put a card to it, so that if you want to refer that back, we can go back to that episode. The equations for a simple pendulum are actually pretty simple.
Right?
So the gravitational force G is acting constantly on a pendulum. All right. Given that a pendulum is displaced by angle theta, the formula is the angular acceleration is G by length of the pendulum multiplied by sine theta.
Okay.
Where theta is the angle between
the center.
Yeah, between the center and whatever.
Okay.
All right. Now the thing is, whenever you talk about pendulum, we are always talking about polar coordinates. All right. So I think at this point it's very important to discuss about the differences between polar coordinates and Cartesian coordinates.
Sure.
Cartesian coordinates, everybody knows it's x and y. Whereas polar coordinates is angle and then radius. So given us a rod of let's say radius r and an angle, find out what is the Cartesian coordinates.
Okay.
So a simple formula to do that is, if you wanted to convert polar coordinates into Cartesian, which we are going to be doing a lot in this simulation, these are the formulas.
Okay.
All right. Now, given that, let's just look at what a double pendulum is. This is what it looks like. The double pendulum, simulation is not important as far as this episode is concerned. What we are trying to do is to show that a double pendulum is a chaotic system, wherein even the slightest changes in the initial conditions will give rise to completely different outcomes.
Okay.
A few moments later. I think that's the point of the double pendulum. Okay. But let's look at what a double pendulum looks like. There are basically two bobs. There is the first one is hung on a rod with L1 and the second one with L2. Now, given that. All right. So what would be the equations of a double pendulum look like? It is slightly terrifying to look at at first. But I have taken this from a very good website called the My Physics Lab. Basically, I've just copied it.
Wow.
This website has a lot of formulas and a lot of simulations on it. So
very nice.
If you want to continue your journey towards physical simulations or understanding how physics simulations work,
wow,
this is a good site to actually start with.
Excellent.
Right? And as always, I want to remind our viewers, all of this is actually already built into a lot of 3D rendering systems. Even Blender, for example, can do physics simulations right out of the box collisions and how boxes collide and all of those things. It doesn't require you to understand the math behind all of these physics simulations.
Absolutely.
The point of this channel is that we try to understand what's deep down, what is really happening, or what is the mathematics behind all of these simulations. That's what the point is of all of this. Given that, so I've basically taken this formula from this website,
right,
and I have put it in a more readable format and given an explanation as to what this one is. All right. So whenever you see this prime over here, it basically means it's the resultant of an equation. All right. And So what is being shown over here is that the angular acceleration of the first angle or of the first bob,
pendulum,
of the first pendulum, correct, would be g by such a big formula. Now I am not going to claim that I understand what this formula is. All I have done is faithfully just copy this, put it over here for you to understand. And what I'm going to do is just going to implement this
in code,
faithfully in code. Right. I'm not going to claim that I understand what this is.
Sure.
I'm not even going to claim that I understand what they mean when they say that the above equations are close to the form needed for the Runge-Kutta method.
Okay.
All right. All I know is that this works when you put it in code.
Right. Sure.
All right. So once. So like I said, it looks a little bit intimidating, but once you understand the different components of this formula, it becomes, and all you need to do is sort of fill in these values, it becomes easier to simulate.
I don't know. So this Runge-Kutta, I seem to remember in engineering we had topic like numerical calculation or something.
Actually, that's exactly what it is. It's a method to calculate, or it's most useful in physics simulation, and I believe the Runge-Kutta method is the one that gives the most accurate results, or is very true to a wide set of physical simulations.
I actually, frankly, have no idea what it does, but I know that we had done something like that in engineering. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So let's get started.
Let's get started, and we'll get coding, and we'll meet you on the other side. This is our index.html page where all the required JavaScript files are included. I also have a canvas centered on the page. You'll notice that the body doesn't have the onload is equal to init function calling. The reason for that is because from this episode onwards, I'm using the window.add event listener of load. So this listens for the load event of the HTML page. When the page is loaded, this gets executed. Within the init, we have the canvas that is initialized. We resize it if it is required, get the width and the height, and then we get the context from the canvas. Finally, we call our loop function. This is the animate, and the animate function is looped with using the request animation frame function. I also have a class over here called the pendulum class. Now the pendulum has all of its properties defined. So the properties of a pendulum are the length. This would be the rod length. Each pendulum has a mass. A pendulum can also have an angle, basically the angle from where it is attached. And then it also has a specific velocity. This velocity is the angular velocity. These pendulums are declared or are used in something called as a double pendulum system. Now this is my class that is going to consume the pendulum class itself. Now, because it's a double pendulum system, naturally, we are going to have two pendulums declared. So this double pendulum system class has the pendulum 1 and pendulum 2 to represent the two bobs of the pendulum. Each one of these pendulums have their own specific mass, length, and angular velocity and angular momentum. The angular the angle and the angular velocity. All of these are declared as random values from within the double pendulum system itself. With that being said, let's get to coding the other parts of the double pendulum system. We'll start by initializing an off-screen canvas and context. We'll also declare the global variables for g, which is acceleration due to gravity, and a damping. we'll declare the origin point to be the top center of the screen. Let's also initialize the off-screen canvas here. We'll declare a variable of the double pendulum system. Then we'll draw the off-screen image on top of the canvas. And after that, we'll update and render the double canvas system. Now remember, we are declaring and invoking the double pendulum system ahead of time so that all we have to do is plug in the code therein and it would be ready to render on the screen. I just want to explain a few terminologies here. One is in our code, we are going to be using something called as an origin point. And that origin point means nothing but where the double pendulum is hanging off of. So if this is what the double pendulum looks like, this is where it would be hanging off of. Now in the previous section, you just saw that we created something called as an off-screen canvas. And the reason for that is because I want to sort of draw the trace point of the second pendulum. So of the second bob. So I have two bobs in this pendulum over here, and we want to sort of trace where this second bob is, traversing through the canvas. Now we want to do that without it interfering with the drawing of the primary pendulum itself, which is why we will draw that trace on the off-screen canvas. With that being said, let's continue our coding. Let's begin by rendering the double pendulum on the screen first. We'll assign origin point values and trace color values as properties. Next, we'll have to have an initial point values of the trace lines. We'll calculate them using the pendulum equation from earlier. Remember that the first bob hangs off of the origin point and the second bob hangs off of the first bob. We'll render the double pendulum by first drawing the lines of the pendulum, and then we will draw the bobs of the pendulum. Next, we'll need to draw the trace lines. We'll draw the trace lines on the off-screen context, which we will pass as parameter to the render function. Now remember that the trace lines are drawn from the second bob's location to the px and py properties. And finally, we'll have to pass the appropriate values of the constructors to the double pendulum system and the render function. Alright, with that being done, let's look at what that looks like. So this is what a randomly generated double pendulum looks like. Now notice that because in our double pendulum system, we have declared random values for the length, the mass, the angle. They are generated at random places whenever I refresh the screen. All right, so every time I refresh the screen, the double pendulum gets generated at a random point. All right, now all that remains is to plug in our big double pendulum equation into code. And let's get on with that. All right, here's the conversion of the big equations to code. This part of the code is pretty straightforward since all we are doing here is substitute the respective values in the code. So I'm going to speed through this part a bit. Once we've derived the angular accelerations, we'll add the accelerations to the velocities and the velocity to the angles of the pendulum. And finally, we will account for the damping of the velocities. I've cleaned up the code to match some missing brackets and have verified that the code is exactly as per the double pendulum equation. Let's look at the result. That looks exactly as you would expect a double pendulum system to behave. If you remember the original premise of this episode, we wanted to see how small changes in the initial conditions gives rise to totally different results. Let's code in another double pendulum system, but let's start it at an angle of just 0.01 radians from the original and see what it does. We'll write a straightforward cloning method in the pendulum class. Also, a cloning function in the pendulum system class. Now I'm hoping that I don't have to explain what cloning does. Let's declare a second pendulum and make it a clone of the first pendulum. We'll adjust the angle by just 0.01 radians from the first pendulum, and we'll also give it a different trace color. Also, we'll render the second double pendulum on the canvas. Let's see what that did. Even though it looks like there is only one pendulum, they will soon diverge and the chaotic nature of the pendulums will become apparent. Just a small change in the initial conditions gives rise to vastly different outcomes. And there you go. They have already diverged, and within a few moments, they will look completely different from each other. Let's look at the results with Ravi. You ready to see the results?
Absolutely.
It looks fascinating, man. Really. Look at this. All right. So there are two double pendulums over here. Oh, already. Wow. Okay. So the point I wanted to make over here was that I have two sets of double pendulum simulated over here.
Right.
Each starting with just a little bit.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. So I've basically refreshed it. There are two double pendulums over here, and each one of them starts with just a little bit offset angle. The angles are offset by just a few fraction of a radian. But you will see that over time, they both will simulate, they both will basically diverge into different sets of behaviors with just that very small initial conditions that we have.
Right.
Both these pendulums are essentially clones of each other, but just but the angle of the first one is off by the second one by just 0.01 radians. And look at the result that it gives. Completely chaotic.
Yeah.
Right. If the initial conditions change just a little bit, it gives entirely different results altogether. All right. I think most importantly, double pendulums are very interesting to simulate, to sort of code them up and then simulate and see them on the screen like that. But it is also very fascinating to see them, become so chaotic, or gives you a better understanding of what chaotic systems are.
Wow.
Right?
This reminds me of that motion capture figures moving.
Yeah. In the darkness. Yeah. Yeah.
Like that.
It's sort of. I understand. I'm going to refresh the screen once again. All right. Yeah, I think this is better. There you go.
Yeah.
They both started out so
almost
much alike.
The same.
And then
and then now they're different. Yeah. Very cool.
Very cool. So that's all we had for this week. Do join us again next week for another interesting episode.
Yep.
I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm pretty sure it will be interesting.
Yep.
If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It'll help us. It'll help our channel grow.
Yep.
And it'll help us.
Sure. Ciao.
Thank you very much. Bye.